So let's talk about trying to find a builder.
Hello, I'm Chad,
And I'm Grace.
and this is our dog Queen.
And together we are
Two gringos and a dingo.
So finding a builder for the area that you want to build in, you just boots on the ground again, talk to people. It took us 6 months living here before we chose a builder. We wanted to talk to people, to get recommendations, and that sort of thing.
Part of that was we're learning.
Right.
And what we wanted to learn was whether or not we were going to be comfortable here long term before
Right.
we invested in the cost of building, because it is not cheap.
Right.
And you don't get the financing down here that you could get in the States.
No.
We interviewed 5 or 6 different builders.
Mm-hmm.
We got the architect plans pulled together and had different builders quote that architect plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the range of prices was staggering.
Yes.
You
For the
can't,
same house.
you can't go by just who's the lowest bidder, because
No.
you know,
Not always.
then you have to think, okay, what are they cutting out to give us this price? But you look at what have you built,
Right.
and if they can't show you a finished product, that's
Right.
a red flag.
Right.
If they
How long have they been building in Belize?
Yeah.
That's another thing.
if they're not introducing you to satisfied customers,
Correct.
that's a red flag.
Right.
So we looked at all those things. We picked a local builder,
We did.
and he's also an architect, and we're early in the process.
We're early in the process.
In 6 months, we will tell you if we love this guy or not. Yeah.
Another thing, when you're asking for a builder to give you a price, we were expecting okay, tell us what your square foot price is, because in the States, that's kind of what you do. You know, how much is the house going to be per square foot, cost-wise. And they don't really do it that way down here. The square foot price will range within your plan, anywhere from maybe $50 a square foot for an outside deck, or maybe $225 a square foot for something like a pool or a something, So it ranges. So that you're not going to just get one square foot price for your entire build. It's going to be chopped up in all these little bits and pieces.
And that makes perfect sense when you think about it, because
Mm-hmm.
people don't come down here to build indoor space.
Right.
They build a lot of outdoor space.
Right.
Ours,
we always film outside. Outside is beautiful in Belize.
and we're trying to have a good, comfortable retreat. Go inside when you need air conditioning, but
Sure.
you're living outside.
Yeah.
And so half of our house is going to be outside.
Right.
And so it doesn't make sense to think they're going to charge the same thing for a deck that's not covered as a deck that is covered.
Or that's inside air conditioned.
Yeah, so it does make a bunch of difference. You do need to get a firm quote, and then you do need to say, what's the payment plan?
Right. Because they're all different. Everybody has their own thing.
And what's the build schedule?
Right.
We're told by many people it takes 18 months to build a house here.
18 to 24 months. And
Yeah.
we have met, I don't know how many people that they're going on to year 3 of their house build. So we hope not to do a 3-year build. But you have to just know that in Belize things move much slower. So you just have to understand that, and don't get too upset as long as you see progress being made on your build and things like that. It's when they don't show up for days and days and days at a time that you need to start worrying about your project.
And when you start thinking about how fast are they working, start thinking about how much time you've got to be here.
Right.
Because human nature is human nature wherever you are. If
Right.
you're there and you're seeing what they're doing more.
Right.
We show up at our lot during the build 2 to 3 times a day.
Right. That we chose to rent very close to where we're building because we wanted to be on that property very often, frequently. So that's just another tip, is if you can live close by where you're building, it'll make it easier on you to monitor.
Yeah. The other thing is, how much do you put down?
Oh, yeah.
We were quoted anything from 50% down, and 18 months to finish, to 20% down and finish in 8 months.
Right. So there's not a standard. And like Chad said, there's not financing down here. So it is pretty much, it's cash. You're not going to have a mortgage. They don't do that down here. There are occasions, yes, you can hear about it. I would say probably 5% or less people do some sort of financing to build their home or to even buy a home.
Well, and if you're doing that, you're probably doing it through a real estate company.
Yes.
Or you're doing it through an individual. But you're not doing it through a bank unless you're a Belizean.
Right. True.
Yeah.
So you have to keep in mind, this is going to be cash up front. You know, money wire transfers. That's how you're going to be paying for your house. And by the time your house is built, you've paid for that house. So when you move into the house, you don't have a house payment. You have utilities and you have living expenses, but you don't have a house payment. So that's one thing to think about. Yeah.
Now, when you get into the cost of building, depends on what kind of house you're building, of course. Not just the size, but you have the choice between a concrete construction and the wood frame houses that you're used to seeing in the States. That's a big difference here. It's a big difference in timeline for construction. It's a big difference in cost. It's also a big difference in durability if a storm comes through.
True.
Now,
Well, and also just the lifetime of the house. So
Sure.
you either have concrete house or you have a wood house.
And the concrete house is going to last. It's, you know, a storm will come through and it might mess it up, but it's not going to knock it over.
Yeah, no.
You do see abandoned concrete homes here with the roofs gone and people just didn't go back and fix them up. So it's not like they're impenetrable,
Right.
but they're much more durable.
Right. And along that line, since they are more durable, they're cheaper to insure for house insurance. So if you have a concrete home, you'll pay less for house insurance than you would if you have a wood house. A wood house, it costs more to insure.
So if you want to do a bullet point summary on this, interview who you're going to use to build, interview the customers of your builder, where you know if they're reputable.
Right. I think the last thing for a builder is you can negotiate how much you hold back to finish the build. I think 3% or something is typical, and we asked for 10%, so we held back 10%. So, because you hear a lot of times the builder gets 90%, 95%, and they don't finish the job, but you've paid them all the money.
Well, that's because it's no longer profitable and they go on to the next thing that's more profitable.
Right.
I come from Texas, and in Texas 10% retainage is standard.
Right.
So I just brought that with me.
Yeah.
The builder agreed to it.
Right.
And the value of that is there's enough of a payday at the end that he doesn't get until he is certified and you agree that he's finished, that you get your job finished.
Right.
There are a lot of 95% completed jobs down here.
So, okay, well, we hope this was helpful. Our next episodes will be about the actual build, the actual physical part of building a concrete home in Belize. So stay tuned.
Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to our channel.